Hi, I'm Erik Voss, and there's one underappreciated scene from Avengers Endgame that I just really love.
We go back, we get the stones before Thanos gets them. Thanos doesn't have the stones.
That's not how it works.
Well, that's what I heard.
Wait, but who?
Star Trek, Terminator, Time Cop, Time After Time.
Quantum Leap?
Basically any movie that deals with time travel.
Die Hard? No, that's not one.
This is known.
Think about it. If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future. And your former present becomes the past.
So Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit?
In screenwriting, this is an example of what we call hanging a lantern. When the logic of your story is a bit murky or retreading on a familiar trope, you just hang a lantern on it by calling it out with a joke. Through Scott Lang, the Endgame writers are saying, yes, we are aware Back to the Future exists, just to go with us on this. But I have to take issue with them calling Back to the Future bullshit, because it's one of my all-time favorite films, and to date, I believe it handles the tricky narrative device of time travel a lot better than any film, including Avengers Endgame. Join me on this comparison of two films that I love, Avengers Endgame and Back to the Future, specifically by how each film handles time travel. Both films approach time travel in a similar way, in that going back in time causes split alternate historical timelines, and that the future can be either changed or restored. But Endgame differs in a key way. Rather than suggest changes to the past ripple affect the future, erasing people from existence when their parents don't hook up and whatnot, Endgame applies theoretical physics to the equation. Changes to the past now cause new parallel timelines to branch off while the original timeline remains unchanged. So despite committing to a fresh, more scientifically grounded approach to time travel, why isn't the time travel in Avengers Endgame the thing everyone celebrates as its greatest narrative triumph? Well, it might be because the filmmakers of Endgame never set out to make a time travel movie. Directors Joe and Anthony Russo bristle when they're asked about the time travel logic of the film, and the screenwriters Marcus and McFeely revealed in an interview that time travel was actually Marvel head Kevin Feige's insistence. There's a reason the screenwriters and directors give wildly different interpretations when asked whether Cap grew old in an alternate timeline or within this timeline. The time travel logic in the film was an assignment that they had to figure out, not a point of inspiration that they always dreamed of exploring. By comparison, Back to the Future was inspired by screenwriter Bob Gale finding his father's old yearbook and imagining interacting with his father as a younger man. Now, Gale leaves out the part about hooking up with his mom, but either way, this was time travel wished fulfillment from its origin. The madness of Back to the Future's time travel comes from one place: the mind of Dr. Emmett Brown. He is our constant of this film. When we're confused, he shouts a crackpot explanation at us to set us straight. Despite Doc Brown being a scientist, the time travel of this film is presented as fantasy, not science fiction. It leaves the precise inner workings of time travel a mystery, hidden in the mystical flux capacitor, a magical device that Doc Brown conceived of through a stroke of divine intervention when he struck his head on a bathroom sink. Endgame, on the other hand, shows insecurity when it comes to time travel logic. There's no one authority on the subject in the film. Scott Lang accidentally experiences it, but he doesn't understand it. The scientists Tony Stark and Bruce Banner try to explain it using the language of theoretical physics, but really it's the Ancient One and Doctor Strange who are the experts because they possess the time stone and they seem to have the deepest understanding of how it works. And they're not scientists, they're sorcerers. So is time travel in the MCU magic or is it science? Is it fantasy or science fiction? Without clear answers to these questions, too much of the plot gets bogged down in exposition and time travel mechanics. Endgame's epic final battle is interrupted with a clunky debate over where the hell to go next.
What do you want me to do with this damn thing? Get those stones as far away as possible!
No! We need to get them back where they came from.
No way to get him back. Thanos destroyed the quantum tunnel.
Hold on! That wasn't our only time machine.
This exchange exposes how, until this moment, this battle really had no focus. It was just one side clashing into another side. Now the battle becomes a game of rugby as they try to rush the stones to a van with a time machine in it. Is that really the most compelling goal? And to be honest, before I reminded you that's what the sequence is about, did you even remember? I've seen this movie a butt ton of times, and even I forget. Maybe it's because Thanos simply wrecks their goal line and has no narrative consequence because Banner just builds another quantum tunnel at the end of the movie. It's clear that the filmmakers' hearts in the finale were in Stark's sacrifice, and they just kind of worked backward from there. They did the same with Cap. They've said that they always intended on Cap ending up back in the 40s getting his dance with Peggy. But because their boss wanted time travel to be in the story, and because they never really settled on the exact math of how time travel operates, they shifted Cap's entire journey back to Peggy off screen. We have a general sense of how he got there, but we didn't see it. So instead, Cap's big run back to his girl, the run that every famous romantic film story highlights as its climax. It never happens. It's just kind of like an afterthought. Compare this to Marty in his true love. No, not Jennifer. Doc is Marty's best friend. Yes, it's weird that a teenager has an 80-year-old man as his best friend, and this weird relationship has given us plenty of laughs as the duo they inspired, Rick and Morty. But in the final minutes of Back to the Future, after Marty seemingly achieves his goal of returning to 1985, we're not done yet, because Marty's elderly boyfriend is about to get shot by Libyan terrorists. Marty has spent the entire movie trying to warn Doc, and now we get to see Michael J. Fox sprinting through city streets, rolling down a hill just to get back to his man. Now, the whole point of this final charge is to remind Marty that despite his victory, he remains a slave to the ticking clock, as we all do. And that ticking clock, in my view, is the one thing great time travel stories require, but Endgame fully lacks. Time travel stories are about time itself, how we are all mortals on deadlines and we have to jump on opportunities before the windows close. In Back to the Future, Marty is constantly rushing to beat that clock. That bolt of lightning striking the clock tower is an eternal deadline, and that anxiety induces panic attacks throughout the film, especially as Marty struggles to start the DeLorean. Come on. Despite arguably even higher stakes in Endgame, saving half the population of the freaking universe, the stakes don't feel nearly as high. Is there really any rush during the time heist? Like, think about it. If Cap didn't beat younger Cap, what would have stopped him from just tracking down the scepter later on and zipping it back to the present? Even when Stark loses the Tesseract, it's not an all is lost moment. They just think for 5 seconds and then decide to jump back to an earlier historical period, proving that they can just get unlimited amounts of Pym particles and try again and again and again. Now, one potential ticking clock element is introduced. 2014 Thanos wises up to what they're doing, but he doesn't catch up with them until after the time heist is completed. He only exists to give the Avengers another meaner Thanos to fight in the climax. But you know what? That battle is all we really want from the finale to the Infinity Saga. And I gotta hand it to the Endgame team. For people who weren't really that interested in time travel, they did deliver a pretty solid execution of it. Is Endgame the best time travel movie? No, it's not trying to be though, but it is one of the best crossover finales and callback highlight reels. Time travel was a means to that end. And perhaps instead of seeing Scott Lang's line as the writers throwing down the gauntlet to time heist the title of best time travel movie, maybe they were simply hanging a lantern on their frustration that their time travel mechanics would never top the best.
Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit.